The sun was setting on the alien planet where the Intergalactic Military Academy stood. Its tall, metallic structures glinted in the fading light, casting long shadows across the grounds. The Academy was a place of learning and training for young cadets from all over the galaxy. Humans, aliens with shimmering skin, beings with multiple limbs, and others who looked like nothing anyone had ever seen before, trained together under one roof. It wasn't always peaceful, but it was necessary. The galaxy needed soldiers who could work together, no matter how different they were. Alex Carter stepped out of his quarters, adjusting the straps on his uniform. He was a human, tall and lean, with short brown hair and a determined look in his eyes. Alex had dreamed of joining the Academy since he was a child. Back on Earth, he'd heard stories about brave warriors defending planets and exploring new worlds. To him, this was more than just a job, it was a chance to make a name for himself. But now that he was here, things weren't as easy as he'd imagined. The Academy was tough and the competition was fierce. Cadets came from species with abilities far beyond what humans possessed. Some could run faster than sound, others could see through walls, and some even had powers Alex couldn't begin to understand. Still, he refused to back down. Every day he pushed himself harder, determined to prove that humans belonged here just as much as anyone else. Today's schedule included sparring practice, something Alex both dreaded and looked forward to. Sparring was a chance to test his skills against others, to show everyone he wasn't weak. But it also meant facing opponents who might not take him seriously because he was human. As he walked toward the training arena, he spotted Zara Venn leaning casually against a wall. She was an alien cadet, her blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. Her long arms were crossed over her chest, and her sharp yellow eyes scanned the room with an air of confidence. Zara was known for being one of the best fighters at the Academy. She moved like water fluid, graceful and impossible to pin down. Rumors said she came from a warrior race, though no one knew much about her people. What everyone did know was that she didn't hold back during sparring matches. If you faced her, you'd better be ready for anything. Alex swallowed hard as he approached. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual. "Looks like we're paired up today." Zara glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "You're the human, right?" "Alex? Yeah, that's me," he replied, forcing a smile. "Guess I'll have to keep up with you." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Humans aren't usually fast enough to keep up. Let's see if you're any different." Her words stung, but Alex didn't let it show. Instead, he nodded and followed her into the arena. The space was large, with padded floors and high ceilings. Other cadets were already warming up, stretching or practicing moves with partners. Instructors stood along the edges, watching closely to ensure everyone followed the rules. When it was their turn, Alex and Zara took their positions in the center of the arena. The instructor raised a hand, signaling them to begin. For a moment, neither moved. Alex shifted his weight from foot to foot, keeping his eyes locked on Zara. She stood perfectly still, like a statue waiting to strike. Then, without warning, she lunged forward. Her movements were so quick that Alex barely had time to react. She swung her arm, aiming for his side, but he managed to block it just in time. The force of the blow sent a shockwave through his body, making him stagger backward. Before he could regain his balance, she struck again, this time slapping him hard across the face. The sound echoed through the arena, drawing gasps from the other cadets. Alex stumbled, his cheek stinging from the impact. His pride burned even hotter than the pain. He clenched his fists and charged at her, hoping to catch her off guard. But Zara was too fast. She sidestepped effortlessly, grabbing his arm as he passed. With a swift motion, she twisted it behind his back, causing him to cry out in pain. "What's wrong, human?" she sneered. "Can't handle a little pressure?" Alex gritted his teeth, refusing to give her the satisfaction of seeing him break. He tried to pull away, but she tightened her grip, pushing him further until he felt something pop in his shoulder. Pain shot through his entire arm, and he collapsed to his knees, clutching his injured joint. "That's enough!" the instructor shouted, stepping between them. "Cadet Venn, stand down." Zara released Alex and stepped back, her expression calm and unapologetic. She dusted off her hands as if nothing had happened, then turned and walked away without another word. The other cadets stared at Alex, some smirking, others shaking their heads. He stayed on the ground, humiliated and angry, his mind racing with thoughts of revenge. After a few moments, one of the medics helped him to his feet and escorted him to the infirmary. The doctor examined his shoulder, confirming that it was dislocated but not permanently damaged. "You'll need to rest it for a while," the medic said. "No sparring for at least a week." Alex nodded silently, his jaw tight. He wanted to scream, to punch something, but he forced himself to stay calm. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. He vowed to get stronger, to train harder, and to prove to Zara and everyone else that he wasn't someone to underestimate. As he left the infirmary later that evening, Alex caught sight of Zara walking down the hallway. She noticed him too, pausing briefly to meet his gaze. There was no apology in her eyes, only a hint of curiosity. For a moment they simply stared at each other, neither speaking. Then she turned and continued on her way, leaving Alex alone. With his thoughts, he didn't hate her, not completely anyway. Sure, she had humiliated him, but deep down he respected her skill. She was everything he wanted to be, strong, confident, and fearless. And maybe, just maybe, there was something he could learn from her if he could swallow his pride long enough to try. That night, as Alex lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he replayed the match over and over in his mind. He thought about Zara's speed, her precision, the way she seemed to anticipate his every move. He realized that losing to her wasn't just about physical strength. It was about strategy, focus, and control. Those were things he could improve on, given enough time and effort. For now, though, all he could do was wait. Wait for his shoulder to heal, wait for his next chance to face her, and wait for the moment when he could finally prove himself not just to her, but to everyone at the academy. Until then, he would bide his time, train as much as possible, and prepare for the day when he wouldn't walk away defeated. Little did Alex know, this encounter with Zara was only the beginning of a journey that would change him and the galaxy forever. The days that followed Alex's humiliating defeat in the sparring arena were long and grueling. His shoulder ached constantly, even though the doctors assured him it would heal with time. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the sting of embarrassment. Everywhere he went, whispers followed him. Some cadets snickered behind his back, while others gave him pitying looks. It was clear they thought he didn't belong here, not among aliens who were faster, stronger, and more skilled than any human could ever hope to be. Alex tried to ignore them, focusing instead on his recovery. He spent hours in the academies, training rooms, working on exercises that wouldn't strain his injured shoulder. Push-ups, core workouts, and footwork drills became his daily routine. When he wasn't training, he studied combat techniques, watching recordings of past matches, to learn from the best fighters. He knew he couldn't rely on brute strength alone. He needed strategy, precision, and quick thinking if he wanted to hold his own against opponents like Zara. Despite his determination, Alex couldn't shake the memory of her smug expression as she walked away after their match. She hadn't said a word, but her silence had spoken volumes. To her, he was just another weak human, unworthy of respect. That thought burned inside him, fueling his resolve to get better. But there was something else too, something he couldn't quite put into words. Beneath his anger, he felt a strange curiosity about Zara. Who was she really? Why did she fight the way she did? And why had she looked at him with that flicker of curiosity before walking away? One morning, as Alex sat in the cafeteria nursing a cup of coffee, an announcement came over the intercom. All cadets were required to report to the main hall for a briefing on their next assignment. Groaning inwardly, Alex finished his drink and made his way to the hall. The room buzzed with chatter as cadets filed in, taking their seats. Zara was already there, sitting near the front with her usual air of confidence. Alex hesitated for a moment before choosing a seat farther back, avoiding her gaze. When the instructor stepped up to address the group, the room fell silent. "Cadets," he began, "your next task will require teamwork. You'll be paired randomly and assigned to develop a strategic defense plan for a simulated outpost under attack. This exercise will test not only your tactical skills but also your ability to collaborate effectively. Alex groaned again, this time audibly. Teamwork assignments were always tricky, especially when paired with someone you didn't get along with. As the instructor called out names, Alex braced himself, hoping for anyone but Zara. But fate had other plans. Alex Carter and Zara Venn, the instructor announced, glancing at his clipboard. You're assigned to work together. A ripple of murmurs spread through the room, and Alex felt his stomach drop. Of all the cadets, he had to be paired with her. He glanced toward Zara, expecting to see annoyance or amusement on her face. Instead, she simply nodded, her expression unreadable. Without a word, she stood and headed toward the exit. Clearly expecting him to follow, reluctantly, Alex got up and trailed after her. They found an empty classroom and settled in, spreading out maps and data sheets provided by the instructors. For a while, neither spoke. Zara flipped through the materials, her sharp eyes scanning the information quickly. Alex fidgeted awkwardly, unsure where to start. Finally, Zara broke the silence. If we're going to do this, we need to focus. No distractions. Her voice was firm but not unkind. Fine by me, Alex muttered, still feeling defensive. What's the plan? Zara laid out a map of the outpost. The key is controlling the high ground. If we position our forces here, she pointed to a ridge overlooking the base, we can cover multiple entry points and funnel enemies into narrow paths. Alex frowned, leaning closer to study the map. That's risky. If they flank us, we're trapped. Not if we set traps along these routes, Zara countered, tracing lines across the map. Explosives, tripwires, anything to slow them down. And we keep a reserve team ready to reinforce weak spots. Her plan made sense, Alex had to admit. Still, he couldn't resist challenging her. What if they send aerial units? Your strategy doesn't account for that. Zara raised an eyebrow, a hint of a smirk playing on her lips. Humans always assume everything comes from above. My people have faced worse. We'll deploy countermeasures, EMP devices to disable their tech. Simple. Alex opened his mouth to argue further, but stopped himself. Arguing wouldn't solve anything. Instead, he took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, let's work on the details. As they continued planning, Alex found himself reluctantly impressed by Zara's knowledge. She knew things about warfare that he'd never considered, strategies born from centuries of conflict among her people. At the same time, she seemed surprised by some of his suggestions, particularly those involving resource management and logistics. Slowly, their initial tension began to ease, replaced by a cautious mutual respect. By the end of the session, they had a solid draft of their plan. Exhausted but satisfied, Alex leaned back in his chair. Not bad, he admitted. For a alien, Zara smirked, folding her arms. Coming from a human, I'll take that as a compliment. For the first time since their disastrous sparring match, Alex found himself smiling. Maybe working with Zara wasn't going to be so bad after all. Over the next few days, they met regularly to refine their strategy. Each session brought new insights and new challenges. There were moments when frustration boiled over, especially when they disagreed on tactics. Once, Alex snapped at Zara for dismissing one of his ideas, accusing her of being arrogant. She shot back, calling him stubborn and close-minded. But instead of escalating into a full-blown argument, they both paused, took a step back, and started over. It was during one of these quieter moments that Zara shared something unexpected. They were reviewing their notes late one evening, the room dimly lit by a single overhead lamp. Alex had just asked why she seemed so determined to win every challenge. No matter how small, my people don't trust easily, Zara said after a pause. Her voice was softer than usual, almost hesitant. They think humans are weak, soft. They sent me here to prove them wrong, to show that we don't need alliances to survive. Alex blinked, surprised by her honesty. But you're working with me now. I am, she admitted, and maybe they're wrong about humans, about you. Her words caught him off guard. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Finally, he He cleared his throat. Well, I guess I'm proving them wrong too. About aliens, I mean. Zara chuckled, a low, musical sound that made Alex grin despite himself. Let's just finish this project first. Then we can worry about changing the galaxy. As the deadline for their assignment approached, Alex realized how much he'd changed since their first meeting. He no longer saw Zara as just an opponent or an enemy. She was complex, driven, and fiercely intelligent. More importantly, she had shown him that strength wasn't just about physical power. It was about adaptability, resilience, and the ability to work with others, even when it was hard. On the day of the presentation, Alex and Zara stood side by side in front of their classmates and instructors. Their plan was thorough, well-researched, and innovative, a blend of Zara's tactical brilliance and Alex's practical approach. As they explained their strategy, Alex noticed several cadets nodding in approval. Even the instructors seemed impressed. When they finished, the room erupted in applause. Zara glanced at Alex, a small, genuine smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. Not bad for a human, she said quietly. Not bad for an alien, Alex replied, returning the smile. For the first time, Alex felt like he truly belonged at the academy, not because he had proven himself to others, but because he had found common ground with someone who had once been his rival. Together, they had turned hostility into partnership, and in doing so, they had taken the first step towards something greater. Little did they know, their journey was far from over. The challenges ahead would test their newfound bond in ways neither could imagine. But for now, they walked forward together, united by a shared goal and a growing respect that transcended species, history, and prejudice. The academy buzzed with excitement as preparations for the live training exercise began. This was no ordinary drill. It was designed to simulate real combat scenarios, pushing cadets to their limits in a hostile environment. Teams would be dropped into a rugged wilderness filled with challenges. Treacherous terrain, unpredictable weather, and simulated enemy forces. Success depended on teamwork, strategy, and adaptability. For Alex and Zara, it was an opportunity to put their partnership to the test. Their team consisted of 4 other cadets, each bringing unique skills to the group. There was Ryan, a human engineer who could fix anything; Lyra, a reptilian alien with enhanced night vision; Kale, a burly quadrupedal being known for his strength; and Myra, a quiet but sharp-minded strategist from a telepathic species. On paper, they were a well-rounded team, but tension simmered beneath the surface, especially between Alex and Kyle Dawson, another human cadet who had never hidden his disdain for Alex's friendship with Zara. Kyle wasn't subtle about his feelings. He often made snide remarks during meetings, questioning Alex's decisions or mocking his reliance on alien tactics. To him, working closely with non-humans was a betrayal of their species. Zara ignored Kyle's comments most of the time, but Alex could see how they grated on her patience. Still, neither of them let it affect their focus. They knew the mission came first. On the morning of the exercise, the team gathered at the launch site. The air was thick with anticipation as instructors handed out equipment and reviewed safety protocols. Each cadet carried a pack loaded with supplies, food rations, medical kits, communication devices, and tools for setting traps or building defenses. Despite the weight, Alex felt lighter than he had in weeks. This was what he'd trained for, a chance to prove himself in action. Their drop zone was a dense forest surrounded by jagged cliffs and steep ravines. As soon as they touched down, the team got to work establishing a base camp. Alex and Zara took charge of organizing tasks, dividing responsibilities based on everyone's strengths. Ryan set up the communications array while Lyra scouted the perimeter. Kale hauled logs to fortify their position, and Myra mapped out potential escape routes. Even Kyle pitched in, though his grumbles echoed through the trees. Things went smoothly at first. The team completed their objectives efficiently, avoiding detection by simulated enemies thanks to Myra's careful planning and Zara's keen instincts. But trouble struck on the second day when their communication device suddenly went dead. At first, they thought it might be interference from the planet's magnetic field, but Ryan quickly discovered sabotage. Someone had tampered with the wiring. Panic rippled through the group. With outcomes, they couldn't call for reinforcements or receive updates from the instructors. Worse, they were now vulnerable to surprise attacks. Suspicion turned inward almost immediately. Accusations flew as tempers flared. It's obvious, isn't it? Kyle snapped, glaring at Alex. You're always buddy-buddy with the aliens. Maybe you decided to help them win. Alex froze, stunned by the accusation. Are you serious? Why would I sabotage my own team? Why not? Kyle shot back. You've been cozying up to Zara since day one. Who knows what she's promised? You? That's enough, Zara interjected, stepping between them. Her voice was calm but firm, cutting through the tension. If anyone here is guilty, it's not Alex. He's worked harder than any of us to keep this team together. And why should we believe you? Kyle sneered. You're just sticking up for him because he's your pet project. Zara's eyes narrowed, her blue skin glowing faintly with anger. Careful, human. You don't want to make assumptions about things you don't understand. Before the argument could escalate further, Mira stepped forward, her soft voice cutting through the chaos. Fighting won't solve anything. We need to focus on finding evidence, not pointing fingers. Her words brought a reluctant silence. Slowly, the team regrouped, searching for clues that might reveal the saboteur. It didn't take long for Ryan to find something unusual, a small piece of fabric caught in the damaged wiring. When he held it up, Kyle's face went pale. That's from my jacket, he stammered, backing away. But I swear, I didn't save it, Zara said coldly. We all saw how much you hate working with humans and aliens. Did you think ruining our chances would make you look better? Kyle hesitated, then sighed, slumping against a tree. Fine, it was me. I thought if we failed, they'd see how useless these mixed teams are. Humans shouldn't have to rely on aliens. His confession hung heavy in the air. No one spoke for a moment, the weight of his betrayal sinking in. Finally, Alex broke the silence. This isn't about proving humans are better than aliens or vice versa. It's about surviving together. If we can't trust each other, we don't stand a chance. To everyone's surprise, Zara nodded in agreement. He's right. Whether we like it or not, we're stuck with each other. So either we work together, or we fail. Your choice, Kyle. Kyle looked around at the group, shame written across his face. After a long pause, he nodded reluctantly. Okay, I'll fix the comms. Just give me a chance to make it right. With Kyle's help, Ryan managed to repair the device, restoring their connection to the instructors. But the damage was done. Trust within the team had been shaken, and they knew they couldn't afford another mistake. From that point on, they moved cautiously, double-checking every piece of equipment and keeping watch over one another. As the days passed, the challenges grew more intense. Simulated predators stalked them through the forest, forcing them to stay alert at all times. One night, as they huddled around a makeshift fire, a low growl echoed in the distance. Everyone froze, their hands instinctively reaching for weapons. Moments later, a massive creature emerged from the shadows, its glowing eyes fixed on the group. Stay calm, Zara whispered, gripping her spear tightly. Don't move. The beast circled them slowly, its claws scraping against the ground. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to remain still. Then, without warning, it lunged toward Zara. She reacted instantly, sidestepping its attack and driving her spear into its side. The creature roared in pain, thrashing wildly. Panic erupted as the rest of the team scrambled to defend themselves. Ryan, get the flare! Alex shouted, grabbing a nearby branch to use as a weapon. Kale, distract it! Kale charged forward, using his bulk to draw the creature's attention. Meanwhile, Ryan fumbled with the flare gun, finally firing a bright red burst into the sky. The light startled the beast, giving Zara enough time to deliver a final blow. With a deafening roar, it collapsed to the ground, lifeless, breathing heavily. The team regrouped, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, unexpectedly, Kyle broke the silence. Good job, Zara. You saved us. Zara glanced at him, surprised by the rare compliment. Thanks, but we wouldn't have made it without everyone pitching in. It was a small moment, but it marked a turning point. Over the next few days, the team began to function more cohesively, their earlier animosity fading as they relied on each other to survive. Even Kyle seemed to soften, putting aside his prejudice to contribute to the group's success. By the end of the exercise, they had completed all their objectives, earning high marks from the instructors. As they returned to the academy, exhausted but triumphant, Alex felt a sense of pride he hadn't experienced before. They hadn't just survived, they had grown stronger together. Later that evening, as Alex sat alone in the cafeteria, Zara joined him, sliding into the seat across the table. "Not bad for a bunch of misfits," she said with a smirk. Alex smiled, shaking his head. "Yeah, I guess we proved Kyle wrong. Humans and aliens can work together if they try." "Maybe," Zara replied thoughtfully. "Or maybe it's not about species at all. Maybe it's about trust. About knowing someone has your back, no matter what." Her words lingered in Alex's mind long after she left. He realized she was right. Their journey wasn't just about overcoming differences. It was about building connections that transcended fear and misunderstanding. And as challenging as it had been, Alex knew they were only beginning to scratch the surface of what they could achieve together. The academy was abuzz with talk of the final challenge, a high-stakes survival test that would determine the cadets' readiness for real-world missions. It wasn't just another exercise. It was the culmination of everything they had learned, a chance to prove themselves under the most grueling conditions imaginable. The stakes were clear. Failure meant expulsion, and success meant earning the respect of their peers and instructors. For Alex and Zara, this was more than just a test. It was an opportunity to solidify the bond they had built over the past weeks. Though they had started as rivals, their shared experiences had transformed them into allies and perhaps something more. Neither of them spoke about it openly, but there was an unspoken understanding between them now. They trusted each other in ways neither had expected when they first met. The final challenge took place on a barren, rocky planet with harsh winds and freezing temperatures. Cadets were divided into pairs, dropped off at separate locations, and tasked with navigating to a central extraction point while completing objectives along the way. Supplies were limited, and the environment was unforgiving. To make matters worse, simulated predators roamed the area, programmed to attack any cadet who strayed too far from cover. Alex and Zara found themselves paired together again, a twist that didn't surprise either of them. As they stood at the edge of the drop zone, looking out over the desolate landscape, Zara turned to Alex with a smirk. "Looks like we're stuck with each other one last time." "Guess I'll have to put up with you," Alex replied, grinning. Despite himself, "Let's just hope your luck holds out." They set off cautiously, sticking close to the jagged cliffs that lined their path. The terrain was treacherous, with loose rocks threatening to send them tumbling into the abyss below. Every step required focus, and every decision carried consequences. Early on, they encountered their first obstacle, a narrow ledge spanning a deep chasm. Crossing it would be risky, but going around would cost them valuable time. "I'll go first," Zara said, already moving toward the ledge. "If it collapses, you'll know not to follow." Alex grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Hold on, we don't need any heroics here. Let's secure a rope before anyone tries anything." "Stupid," Zara raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. Together, they anchored a line to a sturdy rock formation and used it to cross safely. Once on the other side, Zara glanced at Alex. "Careful planning suits you, human." "Thanks," Alex replied, "but don't get used to it. Next time, you can come up with the brilliant ideas." Their banter helped ease the tension, but the challenges only grew harder as they pressed forward. Later that day, they stumbled upon a pack of simulated predators large, wolf-like creatures with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth. The beasts circled them, growling low in their throats, waiting for the right moment to strike. "We can't outrun them," Zara whispered, gripping her weapon tightly. "We'll have to fight," Alex nodded, his heart pounding. "On my signal, we split up, draw them away from each other." Before Zara could respond, the largest predator lunged at its jaws snapping shut inches from her face. She twisted away, rolling to her feet and slashing at its side with her blade. Alex charged the others, shouting to draw their attention. For a few chaotic moments, it seemed like they might actually pull it off. Then disaster struck. The creatures knocked Zara off balance, sending her tumbling toward the edge of a steep cliff. Alex froze, watching in horror as she scrambled to regain her footing. Without thinking, he threw himself at the nearest predator, driving his knife into its neck. The distraction gave Zara just enough time to steady herself, but the creature's claws grazed her leg, leaving a deep gash. "Zara!" Alex shouted, rushing to her side. "Are you okay?" She winced, pressing a hand to the wound. "I'll live. But we need to move, now." Despite her injury, Zara insisted on continuing. Alex wanted to argue, but he knew better. Stubbornness was part of what made her so effective in combat. Instead, he supported her as best he could, helping her navigate the uneven ground and keeping watch for more threats. As night fell, the temperature plummeted and the wind howled through the canyon. Exhausted and battered, they huddled together in a shallow cave, trying to stay warm. Zara leaned against the wall, her breathing shallow but steady. Alex sat beside her, feeding scraps of dry wood into a small fire. "You didn't have to do that," Zara said quietly, breaking the silence. "Back there with the predators. You could have gotten yourself killed. I wasn't going to let you fall," Alex replied simply. "Besides, teamwork, remember? That's what got us this far." Zara smiled faintly, her yellow eyes reflecting the flickering flames. "You've changed, Alex. When we first met, you were so angry, determined to prove yourself. Now look at you." "And you've softened," Alex teased. "Who would have thought the great Zara Ven could smile without sneering?" she chuckled, shaking her head. "Don't push your luck, human." They sat in companionable silence for a while, the fire casting long shadows on the cave walls. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Alex felt truly at peace. Despite the danger and uncertainty, he knew they would make it through, as long as they had each other. The next morning brought new challenges, but also renewed determination. With Zara's legs still injured, Alex took the lead, scouting ahead and clearing paths. His quick thinking saved them from several traps hidden along the route, and his encouragement kept Zara moving even when the pain became unbearable. Finally, after 3 grueling days, they reached the extraction point-wide plateau surrounded by towering cliffs. Other teams were already there, some celebrating their success, others tending to injuries. As Alex and Zara emerged from the trail, battered but victorious, a cheer erupted from the crowd. Their instructors approached, nodding in approval. "Well done, Cadets Carter and Ven," one of them said. "Not many teams make it this far. You've proven yourselves capable of handling whatever the galaxy throws at you." Alex and Zara exchanged a glance, sharing a moment of quiet pride. They had started as rivals, clashed as teammates, and now stood as equals bound by trust, respect, and the unbreakable bond forged through shared struggles. Later that evening, as the Academy celebrated their achievements, Alex found Zara standing alone on a balcony overlooking the training grounds. He joined her, leaning against the railing beside her. "What happens now?" he asked, staring at the stars above. "After graduation, I mean," Zara shrugged, her expression thoughtful. "I don't know. My people expect me to return home, to show them that alliances are possible. But I'm not sure I belong there anymore." "You'll figure it out," Alex said confidently. "And wherever you end up, you'll be amazing at it." She smiled, turning to face him. "What about you? What's next for the human who refused to give up?" Alex laughed softly. "I guess I'll keep proving people wrong. Maybe I'll even convince a few aliens along the way." They stood there for a while, watching the sky stretch endlessly before them. The galaxy was vast and full of unknowns, but for the first time, neither of them felt afraid. Whatever lay ahead, they knew they could face it together or apart. In that moment, Alex realized something important. It wasn't just about surviving the academy or excelling in combat. It was about learning to see beyond differences, to find strength in diversity, and to build bridges where none existed before. And though their journey at the academy was ending, their story was only beginning. The day of graduation had finally arrived. The academy grounds were alive with energy as cadets prepared for the ceremony. That would mark the end of their training and the beginning of their careers. Flags from dozens of planets fluttered in. The breeze and banners hung across the main hall, each bearing symbols of unity and cooperation. For Alex and Zara, it was a bittersweet moment. They had come so far together, but now they faced an uncertain future, one that might take them to opposite ends of the galaxy. Alex stood at the edge of the crowd, adjusting his uniform for what felt like the 100th time. He glanced around, spotting Zara nearby. She looked different today, not just because she was wearing formal attire instead of combat gear, but because there was a calmness about her, a sense of purpose. Her blue skin shimmered faintly under the sunlight, and her sharp yellow eyes scanned the gathering with quiet confidence. As the ceremony began, the cadets took their seats, listening intently as the Academy's commander delivered a speech about courage, teamwork, and the importance of protecting the galaxy. When it came time for the cadets to speak, Alex was chosen to represent his class. He stepped up to the podium, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. "Before I came here," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment, "I thought this place was about proving who was strongest or fastest. But I was wrong. It's not about being better than someone else, it's about working together, no matter how different we are. We've all learned that lesson, sometimes the hard way. And if we can bring that spirit into the galaxy, then maybe, just maybe, we can make things better." His words earned applause, and when he returned to his seat, Zara gave him a small nod of approval. It wasn't much, but it meant everything to Alex. Throughout the ceremony, he couldn't help but think about how far they'd come since their first disastrous encounter. Back then they had been enemies, or at least rivals, but now they were something more, friends, allies. Whatever it was real. After the formalities ended, the cadets gathered outside for one last celebration before parting ways. Music played softly in the background, and tables were set up with food and drinks from various cultures. Cadets mingled, exchanging stories and promises to stay in touch. Alex spotted Zara standing alone near the edge of the courtyard, gazing up at the stars. He approached cautiously, unsure if she wanted company. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, gesturing to the empty space beside her. She shook her head, smiling faintly. "Go ahead." They stood in silence for a while, watching the constellations twinkle against the dark sky. Finally, Alex spoke. "So, what's next for you?" Zara sighed, folding her arms across her chest. "I'm heading back to my home planet. My people need to see that alliances are possible even with humans. But it won't be easy. They're stubborn, proud. Change doesn't come quickly." "You'll do great," Alex said firmly. "You've already changed me, and I didn't think that was possible," Zara chuckled, shaking her head. "Don't give me too much credit. You did most of the work." "Maybe," Alex admitted. "But you pushed me. You didn't let me settle for less. That's worth something." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of their impending separation hung heavy in the air, unspoken but undeniable. They both knew this might be the last time they saw each other for years, if ever. "I have something for you," Zara said suddenly, reaching into a pouch at her side. She pulled out a small object, a smooth stone etched with intricate patterns. "It's from my culture, a token of trust. If you ever need help, show this to anyone from my people. They'll know you're a friend." Alex accepted the gift, turning it over in his hands. It was cool to the touch, its design swirling like tiny galaxies. "Thank you," he said softly. "I won't forget this." "And I won't forget you," Zara replied, her voice quieter than usual. "You've shown me that humans aren't so bad after all." Alex grinned, trying to lighten the mood. "Careful, or you might start liking us too much." Zara rolled her eyes, but there was warmth in her expression. "Don't push your luck, human." Their conversation drifted to lighter topics, memories of sparring matches, late-night planning sessions, and the chaos of survival exercises. Laughter bubbled between them, easing the tension of goodbye. But eventually, the reality of the moment returned, pressing down on them once more. As the night wore on, the crowd began to thin. Other cadets hugged, exchanged contact information, and made plans to meet again. Alex and Zara lingered, unwilling to let go of the moment. Finally, Zara turned to face him, her expression serious. "You should go," she said gently. "Your ship leaves soon." Alex hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't come. In the end, he simply nodded. "Be safe out there, Zara. You too, Alex." Without another word, they embraced, a brief, awkward hug that somehow conveyed everything they couldn't say aloud. Then Zara stepped back, giving him one last smile before walking away. Alex watched her go, the stone still clutched tightly in his hand. Later that night, as Alex boarded his transport ship, he found a quiet corner and sat down, staring out the window as the engines roared to life. The academy grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared entirely, replaced by the vast expanse of space. He thought about Zara, wondering where her journey would take her. Would she succeed in changing her people's minds? Would she find happiness? And what about him? What awaited him in the unknown reaches of the galaxy? He didn't have answers, but that was okay. Life was unpredictable, full of challenges and surprises. All he could do was face it head on, just like he had during his time at the academy. As the ship entered hyperspace, Alex closed his eyes, letting the hum of the engines lull him into a reflective calm. He thought about the lessons he'd learned, the importance of trust, resilience, and adaptability. He thought about Zara, her strength and determination, and the bond they had forged. Most of all, he thought about the future, not just for himself, but for everyone. In the end, it wasn't about species or differences. It was about connection, about finding common ground in a universe that often seemed divided. Alex didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing for certain: wherever he went, whatever he did, he would carry those lessons with him. And maybe, just maybe, he'd inspire others to do the same. The galaxy was vast and full of possibilities. For Alex Carter and for Zara Vennet was a canvas waiting to be painted. Together or apart, they had taken the first step toward a brighter future. And that was enough.